Hi, this is Paolo. Merry Christmas. It's Boxing Day. It's about 4 p.m. here in the UK. The sun is about to go away, to go off. And what does the poor man do when has a moment like that? Hold Yancha. This is how the leaves of this look like. I hope you can see it well. I still remember the first time I had a tea like this. So this is Yancha. The shop that made this tea was closed down in the 60s. So we think this should be around from the 50s or 60s. So I remember the first time I had this a tea like this, and I was so amazed and impressed. I've only been drinking tea for a few years, but I still remember my comment was like, this tea is everything. It's thick and it's got really, really strong aftertaste, and it's so completely smooth and comfortable, and the astringency is zero and the flavor is really dense. So I'm gonna drink some. As usual, no, I mean, same way as for old puerh, the only way to waste a very old tea is to not use enough of it. So there's quite a bit of lift there. The teapot will be really quite full. This is a teapot I got. It's a Zini teapot I got from my very first tea teacher, who now died. Okay, so I'm gonna fill up the pot with all this leaf. The smell of the dry leaf is not very much because this tea has been aged so much. However, this is lovely. The smell just goes really, really deep, even into the throat. This is how much leaf there is in the teapot. I hope you can see that. Because this tea is so good, I'm gonna do a very, very, very quick wash only. And in fact, I might be even tempted to drink it anyway. Really shouldn't be drinking wash of tea so old, but it's so tempting. I'm gonna give it a little sip. Wow. It tastes pretty clean, and even though the color is not very dark, actually I'll show you the color in the picture. This is just the color of the wash. I'm gonna brew the tea much harder later. But yeah, even though it's this color, it was really like a flesh tea, the water wasn't even 100, it's probably got down to 90 as I was talking. Even so, it's really full and dense. It still has some strength and power to it. This is really what makes tea this old, certainly Yancha, but all of them still good. A very strong, I mean, obviously all of them by now, if they're aged so much, they're gonna be smooth, right? But what makes a tea really, really good when it's old is also that one, it's strong, two, the aftertaste is particularly deep, and three, of course, there are no off flavors in the storage. This tea has everything of those. Oh, yeah, I said I wouldn't drink the wash, didn't I? Never mind. But I also said it was hard to hard to resist. Alright, gonna give it another smell. It's like this sweet roasted yancha, roasted oolong smell. And yeah, it just feels like, even though the smell is not very strong, it just feels like it goes really, really quite deep. This is how the box I was given it looks like. Obviously the original packaging would have been different. And this comes from, her name is Teacher Chen. She lives in Inge, Taiwan, and somebody I've been introduced to in 2017 already by a common friend. And she teaches tea. She's been doing so for many years. Her collection is amazing. She's got a townhouse in Inge, which she uses just to store her tea collection. So there's everything from like really, really old white tea, really old Yancha, old Yancha, she has so many. And then old furnitures, silver kettles, like artistically made silver kettles, antique and modern. I think she might have like 30, 50 just of those. So you hang around in this tea house. I mean, it's not a tea house, it's a townhouse just filled up with tea stuff. On 4 floors is a quite narrow, traditional standard Taiwanese house. And she treated me to so many of these teas. And the first time it was in 2017. And I had the reaction that I said before. And then last year, 2021, 22, I went back and I managed to buy some of this finally. I finally understood what good tea is. I mean, the price obviously is really quite high. But I've always been impressed by this kind of tea when I drank it, every time she treated me to it. And yeah, finally the tea came together. I didn't buy very much, I only bought about 100 grams. And this is some of the last of what I have. But I think this year I'm gonna go harder on this. Like, this tea is really so comfortable. This idea of comfortable, I keep on going over it, but how can you talk about it? There's no astringency, there are no off flavors. The flavor is perfect. Like, I literally cannot imagine another flavor that I prefer to this. Not just tea flavor, but any flavors whatsoever. I say flavor, it's not quite flavor, it's more like the thickness and the sweetness combined with the smoothness and the depth of how everything goes really, really down the throat and the body. There are various, medicines, even Chinese medicines in the world that I am used to, but there's nothing that is quite so amazingly comfortable as this is. It's not very polite of me to serve directly in the cup without showing you the color, but I just wanted to keep some heat. But yeah, this I'll show you now. This is how I serve this kind of tea. Yes. Hopefully I'm not gonna spill it. There you go. Hopefully you saw it. It's black. Wow. This is... I noticed that when I speak, I tend to brew 50% longer than I usually do. Wow. And for a first tip, that was really quite long. What was it? A minute? Minute and a half? 2? Who knows? But still, besides having a bit of bitterness, which is strange in a tea like this normally, obviously if you steep it long enough, it will have bitterness. But besides that, it's still everything else that I was talking about. And the bitterness doesn't really make it less comfortable. And it really hit me, like the very first sip, like you saw how my body moved. Very nice smell left in the cup. I'll try a slightly lighter infusion. Or will I? Who knows? It's so tempting, again, it's so tempting to just let it steep. Unfortunately, compared to puerh, the only drawback Yancha has is that it doesn't last quite as long. So if I make cups like this, I might only have 4 or 5. But what 4 or 5 are they? I remember hearing from a friend who also knew this teacher. We always look for perfection in puerh and in aged puerh, and perhaps perfection is actually found in Yancha. And yeah, it's something I've been thinking about. I suppose a tea like this shows that. Then again, antique puerh of the 50s as well also shows that. Yeah, or perhaps it's more that old tea as they age tends to share certain characteristic. And yeah, in a sense, this is much closer to antique puerh than to younger Yancha even. Could say the same about Liuan as well, which is another of my passions. Very, very old Liuan, 50s and so on, and before Liuan. Also has this kind of profile. Very old white tea does not. Very old white tea might steep this color, but it will behave quite a bit differently and unique. It has a kind of sweetness that's very interesting. I also got some really, really old white tea from the same teacher. And yeah, the experience was absolutely bizarrely interesting. The tea is great, but besides that, it leaves a sense of sweetness in the throat that's a bit like as if you have like some sugar stuck there. But I diverge. Let me enjoy this tea. All right, this slightly lighter infusion. I'm split in two minds. On one hand, I feel like I could cry from how good this is. On the other hand, it's more like this is just so completely natural. Actually, normally when I drink tea, it's more like, something has come in me. And it's kind of, I don't know, changing how I am. And it's, been modifying my body. But this is so completely comfortable. It's more, I feel the chi hitting me really hard because I think I realize I'm stopping to make so much sense. So I think I will leave it there. I said most of what I meant to say about this tea. Yeah, because I don't drink this very often, I just thought to capture this in a video, at least the first two infusion. I'm now gonna have the rest in complete silence. Enjoy the view and the quiet after the family has gone out for Boxing Day. Merry Christmas!